All right, let's continue the caffeine memory study. Let's go back to the research question first, which is this. Does caffeine affect short-term memory, or does having caffeine, or whether or not you have caffeine in your body, impact your short-term memory ability, specifically digit span, in any way, increase or decrease? That was a question, and we had a couple of research designs. We had three. We talked about it in the previous video. But another question remains. If you think critically, if you're a good researcher, you might imagine the situation which could happen with a participant. A participant who's holding the cup of coffee might say, oh, so maybe this study is about the effect of caffeine or coffee or hot drinks prior to a cognitive or mental task, right? So if they're beginning to guess what the study is about, there will be some form of bias, an expectation bias, or demand characteristics, which is inevitable in some type of studies. So maybe you can pause the video now and read what demand characteristics is. Okay. So with demand characteristics happening in your study, if it is identified but not addressed, it could make your study invalid or hard to interpret, because now the effect of coffee, if you pursue the old research design, might just be psychological. It no longer is an actual effect of the chemicals in your brain. The effect is psychological. Now you might think, well, if it works, right? Well, that shouldn't be the case for medication. What about for treatment of depression? And the efficacy will drop. For some people, it will work. For some, it is not. It can be dangerous, and it's not a true drug or effect. Okay, and we want something that works fully, right? So how can we fix this problem? Well, first we can keep the two groups, the control group, no coffee, plus memory task. The experimental group, 100 milliliters of coffee, 30-minute break, and then memory task. Or a placebo group wherein the participant will drink 100 milliliters of decaf, but they don't know that it is decaf, all right? They think it's coffee for sure. It looks and tastes like coffee, but hopefully they will not be able to taste the difference between caf and decaf or be able to identify it. All right, now what will the results look like? Well, it depends, right? So now let's go. Look at the possible outcome of the results. Now this is just me coming up with the sample results of the study, right? We have experimental, placebo, and control group. Now the experimental group is now the drug, and then placebo is the fake drug or fake coffee or decaf, sorry, not fake coffee. But we will try and do this and change the chemical of caffeine to this medicine. All right, we now have a new study. What is this new study? All right, so this drug is famous in the Philippines, but it is known to have no therapeutic claims. In other words, it did not pass clinical trials, and I'll tell you what that means later. So this drug claims that if you take it regularly, it could, in a way, improve your memory or ability to memorize certain things. And it became famous among students medical students specifically, who have to memorize a lot of things in preparation for their exams. But does it work? One way to do this, if it actually works, chemically, neuroanatomically, or neurologically, if it works in your brain, we have to do what we call a placebo study. Now, what is a placebo study? You have an experimental group, 50 participants. Doesn't have to be 50, but just for the sake of this example, let's put 50. They take the drug. They sit down for 30 minutes for the Memo Plus to go into their bloodstream, and they take the digit span memory task. And then we have the control group, 50 participants are randomly assigned, and they take the digit span test. But there's a third group, placebo group. The 50 participants randomly selected, randomly assigned to this group, and they take a pill that looks exactly like Memo Plus. It looks exactly like this, but inside it's just brown sugar or fibers, things that really have no known effect on memory. And then 30 minutes rest, and they take the digit span test. And if they ask, is this a drug? You say yes. Is it possible that it's a placebo? You say it may or may not be, or you may choose not to respond. It's up to you, whatever your instructions were. All right? Now look at this. Here are the results of the study. Percentage correct in the memory test. All right? Look at the results. Maybe you want to pause it, and then I'll talk about it after you have understood it. Okay, so according to the results of the study, a little bit less than 50% items correct for the control group. But look at this, about 80% items correct for the placebo group. They took a pill, but it doesn't have the chemicals or the true ingredients of Memo Plus. And then for the real Memo Plus, it's about the same. It's 1 or 2% higher than the placebo group. What does this mean? It means that the effect of taking a drug, all right, is just psychological for this specific study. There is what we call a placebo effect. The very fact that you took a drug makes you think that it works a certain way, making you have an increased ability in the task because you are anticipating it. You have prepared your mind. The effect is psychological. It's not chemical. Why is it not chemical? Because look, the effect of the actual chemical drug is the same as the sugar, right? So therefore, the effect is just psychological, not chemical in your brain. However, if the results of the study is something like this, whoops, this is a bit too much. Sorry about that. I think it's because, let me just, there you go. Sorry about that. Look, it's just a little over 50%. It is so different or much lower than the 80% of the experimental group. If the results look like this, then there's a true neurochemical effect for the drug on the brain. Therefore, there is no placebo effect. There is an actual effect because of the chemicals inside the pill. Therefore, it really works in the brain. And if this is the result of the study, then this will be medicine, or this will be a much more popular drug, right? You can now say that it has therapeutic claims. So be careful, because when you go to the pharmacy and you buy some form of oriental medicine, you'll see a lot of this. Now, if it's up to you. If you want to take it, you probably won't buy it if it has harmed people. But whether it's effective or not, it's up to you, or it's up to your mind, because many placebo studies have proven that if our minds think it, it will do it. There's a lot of placebo studies done for antidepressants, and those studies can take millions because you need a lot of participants, so many protocols, you need thousands participating in a placebo study for antidepressants. And in some cases, and I would say in most cases, the effects are placebo effects significantly, or it is not significantly different from the actual effect of the drug. Therefore, they cannot be sold as medicine. So, it takes really good chemistry or pharmacy for you to develop a drug that is considered medicine, because it means it has passed clinical trials and it does have therapeutic or pharmaceutical claims. All right? If you see this, it means it didn't pass the placebo test, or there's a placebo effect. If it doesn't have this, it's real medicine. All right? So just a reminder. That's about it. And we'll talk about another experiment, I believe, in another video. Let's have a look. All right.